Welcome to Let's Talk About It with Sons and Daughters. I'm your host, Arden and today my wife, Christian, and I are continuing a conversation around red flags and frustration when it comes to dating. The big
dun, dun, dun.
topic, dating. We all love hearing about dating because there's a lot of different opinions. There's a lot of different things out there. So we guess we just wanted to throw our hats in there because we did do a podcast previously all around red flags. Just went through a bunch of red flags, which we actually went through with Alec and Kate Warman, who is a dating coach. So if you guys missed that conversation, we encourage you guys to listen to that as well. You don't need to go right now, but just listen to it. So Christian, before we jump into dating questions that are serious.
We've already dated.
We've got this. We're experts. I'm throwing up my fingers there because I don't think you can be an expert on dating. It's kind of hard, but I want to ask you some fun dating questions around our dating experience. And so the first one I wanted to ask, because I know what my answer is for this, and it's actually a story I'm excited to share, but I wanted to ask you, what was our most awkward moment when we were dating?
So I can't say yours, or do you want to go ahead and get yours?
I can share mine, then you can think of one. But yeah, so our most awkward moment when dating, and Christian, it's more Christian's most awkward moment, but it was actually on our second date. I didn't know Christian that well. We had only gone on one date, and I went to pick her up from her work, drove like 3 hours to go pick her up. And I get there, and she's closing down her work. She's wearing this beautiful red, is it called a romper?
Romper.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, she looks so beautiful and all this stuff. And so she's closing down work at the end of the day. Sunlight's kind of shining into the studio where she's at. And she goes to pick up something. And like I noticed, and this is okay because we're married now, but I noticed that the sunlight hit her behind, and her romper was completely see-through. Like I could see, because of the sunlight, I could see her underwear straight through her romper. And I remember I was just like, oh, okay. Like, and I just like turned around and I was like, okay, I don't know this girl that well. But in my mind, I went through like, oh no, like what did I just get myself into?
Like you thought it was intentional.
Like, is she trying to seduce me? I mean, I know, I get it. She likes me, but come on, like wait until at least the third date to do that. But, and then it was really funny because then after that, we went outside and I was like, hey, do you want my jacket?
Well, it started raining.
Yeah.
So it probably would have been even worse.
Yeah. So I had a jacket I was like, I know this will go long on her. And I was like, you want to wear my jacket? And I was like, she gave it to her. And then she tried to give it back. And I was like, no, you keep it. You just wear it. Like maybe just wear it around your waist. And she did not find out that it was actually see-through until I told her.
When we were engaged.
Yeah, when we were engaged.
Like not that night. He's just wear this jacket. Tells me months later.
Yeah.
Thank you, love. Thanks for sharing.
It was great. I'm glad you were not trying to seduce me at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe you were.
No, I was not. That would not be my
Who knows?
method.
Who knows? All right, what was your most awkward moment?
I feel like that was my awkward moment, and we can skip to the next question.
We can skip to. All right, well, let me ask you this. What's been your most frustrating
when you didn't tell me my romper was see-through? No, I think the most frustrating moment was probably planning our wedding while we were long distance and our wedding was happening in a completely different state. I feel like that was really hard to plan a wedding really quick from afar and just trying to transition to our new life, my new job. There was just a lot going on where it felt like it was supposed to be the magical, again, air quotes, magical time of the relationship. And it was like, no one told me this is what it would be like. I think there are seasons that you go through that can still be very bonding and very joyful, but they are stressful, and no one really tells you about that.
Yeah. When looking back at our engagement period, it was so bad. It was just not like bad. It was very frustrating. And just being like she's saying, we were long distance all throughout dating and engagement. And that was really, really tough. Mm-hmm. And that was a season that I was glad that I got a word from God that I knew that we were supposed to be married. And I'm sure you did, because it was just, there was a lot of things that came up against it. Yeah, very much testing during that season. So that was not fun. That was definitely my most frustrating thing as well.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Speaking of red flags from our last episode, when we have kids, we do not have kids yet. There are none in the oven. But
There's
when
no
we
announcement coming.
when we do have kids, particularly girls, what will be your biggest red flag as a parent?
Yeah, well, not particularly girls, because our girls aren't dating. They never will date. But I mean, maybe our guy, boys, I can give them some red flags.
Okay,
but,
sure, we'll go along with that.
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest thing that I would tell them is just, and of course, this just sounds like the spiritual side thing, just the common response. But I would just make sure I would tell them that overall, above all else, that their person that they're looking at dating loves God and Christ just as much or more than they do. Mm-hmm. So that would be my biggest red flag that I would tell them to look out for. But yeah, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think mine would definitely be character. I feel like when I was in high school, I would, if it was someone I wanted to date or just a friend, my mom would be able to say, hey, I don't feel like they're actually who they're pretending to be. I was like, what are you talking about? They're amazing. And somehow she always knew, like, when my friend or whoever I had brought over was not genuine. And so I think the character of just treating everyone equally, being who you say you are, that's something my mom radar is going to be on whenever our kids and our girls, honey, do date.
Girls. Yeah, so something that I actually would tell them again, alongside of just their relationship with God, is this was something I really appreciated about you, is that they're a hard worker. If they're not a hard worker, then it can be a little bit of a red flag. Because I remember I told my dad, they kept asking me, like, what do you love about her? What is it? And I said, she's a hard worker. And it wasn't the romantic answer at all. But I just knew that because she was a hard worker, that whatever we went through, whatever we navigated, she would put in the work to be able to work through it. And so that's a very much important something to think about. So dating frustrations. Okay, as Christians, there's a lot of frustrations that can come up when dating because we want to do it well. There's a lot of pressure that we put on it, not so much even from us, but from outside people. So I wanted to ask, first of all, what are some dating frustrations that we're going into it that we can be aware of?
I'd love to even speak from like the guy and girl perspective.
Yeah.
From personal experience, and then just like you're saying, the general expectations of dating as Christians and not as Christians. I think we can kind of start with just getting to the point of dating someone. I feel like there are a million stages that you go through now between like we're texting, we're talking, we're officially dating. It's so complicated almost. And I know for girls, there is the frustration of, do I make the first move or do I wait for the guy? And for me, I am a big advocate in the fact that I think us women are amazing and we are worthy of being pursued. Some people would make the argument of, well, I'm an independent woman. I know what I want. I can go after that guy. In my mind, if you are dating with the intent to be married, which I mean, you should be, honestly, not just casual dating, but if you were dating to particularly probably marry someone, they should be able to lead you well. They should be able to pursue you. They should be able to recognize the worth that you have. And so if it takes them forever just to ask you out, for me, that's frustrating, but it's something that I wouldn't want to compromise on. And I remember before Arden and I had met, I was just frustrated with the singleness season, and I didn't even have a particularly long one, but it's just a frustration of all the thoughts that come up against your mindset of, am I worthy enough? Battling loneliness. And so for me, I love to find things that can combat those negative feelings. And so what I did, if you're watching the video podcast, you get a little bonus. I got this husband's Bible with my friend Mary Payne, and what we did is, this is nothing special. It's special to me, but I got it off of Amazon, and we just decided, you know what, until we meet whoever our future husband is, we are going to have something that we can have tangibly to write letters in, to pray over, like something that makes the wait almost more worth it and less frustrating, because I feel like I'm doing my part while I'm waiting.
Yeah. And she actually gave me that Bible when we got married.
On our wedding day.
Yep, on our wedding day. It was a gift to me, and it was just an amazing thing. And I would say from a guy's perspective, is guys need to be obviously the ones that make the first move. And I remember I was actually talking to Brooke from our team, and I was talking to her, and she was trying to navigate this. And I said, Brooke, you need to understand you're the prize. Like, you are the prize, and you need to make sure that he treats you as such, and that he acts upon that accordingly. And so for us guys, is understanding wife is such a gift. You've always gotta understand that. And so in order for us to grab hold of that gift, we need to make the first move. We need to be super intentional of how we make the first move. Don't play games with it. Don't reach out and then be like, okay, I'm gonna wait 7 days and then reach out again. Obviously be intentional with everything that you're doing. Don't be overbearing, but be very intentional up front to be the first person that honestly makes the move to go after and chase that girl. So next question is now why we're actually dating. What are some frustrations from a girl's perspective that comes up while we're actually in the dating period?
I'd rather you start this one out.
Okay. Yeah, I could.
Because I do feel like it's that continuation of like, for a guy, and if I'm putting words in your mouth, let me know. But okay, I asked this girl out and made the first move. Like, now how do I do this? Like, how often do I take her on dates? Like, what should I be looking for on each date? So I'd love for you to keep speaking to that.
Yeah. So something that I would say is in the beginning, keep it simple. Like, keep it as simple as you possibly can. I remember one of the greatest advice I got was from one of my mentors down in Australia. And she was telling me, she said, hey, Arden, you do all of this big, grand thing when you take a girl out on a first date. And she said, of course, you need to, they're going to fall head over heels for you in that first date because you do all this stuff. But she said, but what you need to do is you need to make sure that you have something to build on. Mm-hmm. And she said, you need to keep the first date extremely simple so that you can continue to build from there. And for me, when we were dating, I was always making sure like, okay, I'm not going to wait for Christian to, surprise me with, hey, I'm going to plan the date, all this stuff. I'm just going to continue to make the effort. And if she's like, hey, no, I would rather plan this date or I'd rather do this, then great. But every single day I made sure there was some kind of special element to it. Mm-hmm. There was an intentional element to it, and that we had time always to talk with one another and grow and be in person. And with long distance, I had to be very intentional to send her things. Like, I remember I sent you a care package, a bunch of like
Sour Patch.
Yeah, kids. Sour Patch Kids, and then also the Notebook, right? Is that what did I just send you a link? I think I sent you a link.
You sent me
yeah, for us to be able to watch the Notebook together because it was your favorite movie. Uh-huh. And so we watched the Notebook together, ate the candy and popcorn, all that stuff.
Popcorn, that's what it was.
Yeah, it's popcorn. And so just was intentional with, no matter, hey, if there's this distance between us, I'm not going to allow that to become an excuse. Mm-hmm. I'm going to treat this woman as the princess that she is, the child of God that she is. Yep. And I'm going to be completely upfront and honoring of that.
Yeah. I mean, long distance dating is a whole separate frustration that we can cover later. But I love that you mentioned the keeping it simple, because I think for females, a common frustration is the fact that we feel usually deeper and quicker than guys do. And that can be frustrating, especially if that guy is not someone that is going to take care of those emotions, that's not upfront with how he is and who he is. So
can I say guy that's not upfront? Can I just speak to that? If you are a guy that is not upfront with your intentions, please be a guy that is upfront. I was very intentional with Christian to, even though I kept it simple in the beginning, to make sure she knew exactly where I stood. Mm-hmm. So we had conversations about it. I mean, it was almost like not every 2 weeks, but it was pretty often that I was like, hey, this is where I'm at. Where are you at?
Yeah. No, that was so helpful, because even in that, it validated my feelings of I'm falling for this man that is being upfront and everything. He doesn't make me feel like I'm questioning if I should have feelings for him, and I know that they are going to be stewarded well, and that even if he can't match where I am right now, that we're on the same journey together. I think I might have quote unquote fallen in love first, but I was in no way going to say it first. So I think it's okay to have those emotions, to get excited, to have those butterflies. But what Arden was saying is, on our first date, to me, it was romantic. You did do special things, but it wasn't like you were trying to woo me the whole time. Like, we had deep conversations. We talked about uncomfortable things. And so dating can be fun. It can be exciting, but it needs to be clear. It doesn't need to be this mask of, I'm going to try to really impress this girl. I'm going to make her think this. Like usually you see in shows, you go on the first date to the fancy restaurant, you tell her what you do, how much money you make, and then you're like 3 months in and she finds out your bad habits and like that you smack when you're eating. But instead it should be like our first date. We got coffee and we sat down and we talked. Like it was fun. It was exciting. I enjoyed it so much, but I didn't leave that date wondering, like feeling head over heels without knowing who I was falling for. And I think that's very important.
Yeah. I think there's two questions that actually kind of popped in my head that I'd love us to actually address, because I think within the dating period, there can be a lot of frustrations that come from people putting expectations on you. So how would we navigate those expectations from people, outside pressure? It's like in the Christian world, if you start going on a date with someone, if they're like, "Ooh, so when's the wedding? Like, when are you going to propose?" kind
People
of thing.
could have actually asked us that though, because it was so quick.
Yeah, I didn't really allow that to ever be a question. I didn't really tell people.
Yeah.
I remember I posted about it.
I feel like a lot of people found out we were dating when they found out we were engaged.
Yeah, even people, very much so. I remember with team members, I sat them down and I was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know I'm going out to Alabama and I'm going to be proposing to this girl that you know nothing about and didn't even know I was dating anyone." But how can we navigate those frustrations?
You and I have talked about this, and this is something I want to try to continue with even our friends now that are in the dating season. If we can say seasons, I know some people get upset about that, but not making it like it has to be this all or nothing. Oftentimes we wait until someone says, "Hey, I have a date," that we have the conversations of, "Okay, well, are you dating to marry? Like, what are you looking for?" Like, and it feels like this combustion of so many things coming together. But if we can just one-on-one with our friends, with our children, with our peers, our siblings, have these conversations when the pressure is not there, of just, hey, before you even start looking for someone, what are you looking for? What are your expectations? What are your intentions with dating? And have those conversations so when it comes, it's almost like they are better prepared in their minds. We've done our due diligence as a friend to help them in that season without making it this all or nothing. This one person has to be it. I feel like that is one way we can do a better job as friends to help people in that season.
That's so good. Let me ask you this really quick question, but I think it's an important one. When do you do the first kiss?
When did we do our first kiss?
No, I can say we did our first kiss on the second date. But I know for me I remember it was actually interesting because I told my mom, I told my friends to keep me accountable.
Told your mom you were gonna kiss me?
No, I told my mom that hey, this is what I'm gonna do until I find the one that I know. And I told her and just said, "Hey, keep me accountable." Told my friends, I said, "Keep me accountable that I will not kiss a girl until I know for sure that they are someone that I'm going to pursue to marry." And so it took us 2 dates, and I knew, I was like, hey,
it was after he saw the romper, guys.
And don't say and I don't want you guys to hear that as hey, I've got to know this person is the one right off the bat, and that's when I can kiss her. It's more as I know that this person is worth pursuing for the intent to marry, that I could see that actually happening with my life. That way you don't just go on a first date and then you kiss someone just because you feel pressured to kiss someone. And then you got to navigate, I don't want to go on a second date with this person and I just kissed them. And all that stuff.
I think for me, I knew that I did not want to kiss on the first date. I think we have to be aware that any physical addition to the relationship adds an extra layer. It lets those feelings rush in so much quicker. For me, I knew that the next person I started dating, I wanted to be the person that I was going to marry, and I just was really selective in that process when I got to that point with God, and I just said, I know myself. I know how I can fall quickly. I know how I can be blindsided. So the next relationship I enter into, I want it to be the person I'm going to marry, but 100% realistically, I want to know who they are. I want to know what I'm getting into. I just don't want to blindside myself or be blindsided, and so I tried to be very aware of that. So our first date, I was very much assessing and connecting dots and, on our phone calls. And so I knew whenever we did have our first kiss that I wanted to be 100% sure that I was okay with continuing on this dating road. And I think that's just what we need to kind of having our mind checked off. Like, if you know this is a person I want to marry, that's amazing. If you don't have that clarity and you just know this is someone that I'm not going to regret having feelings for as much as you can, then that's kind of where I feel like you're able to take that next step.
Yeah.
Or if you wait until the day you get married, that's awesome. More power to you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, and speaking of marriage, I mean, this is going to be a big frustration. I think this is one that, obviously everyone navigates, but feels a lot of pressure around, is how do we know that person is the one? How do we navigate that frustration of deciding or figuring out if that person is the one?
Yeah. I think we first have to start with how we view marriage. I'm not sure with how you grew up, love, but growing up in the Bible Belt, there was almost something wrong with you if you weren't dating someone or married by the time you were like 23. Which is funny because
so you got married at 23.
But just like that early 20s age to be able to do anything, to be able to serve in the church, to be able to have kids and be successful, you had to be married. And so it almost separated the actual fulfillment that comes with marriage, because it was almost like you had to get this major box checked before you were able to thrive in any other area. And so for me, having something like that kind of hindrance on marriage is always going to hinder how you see someone you're dating, because you're automatically going to think, okay, I need to get married. This person needs to be the one. Again, like that pressure of like, this has to be it. And then you add all these people asking, is this the one? When are you going to get married? It almost hinders you from being able to assess and to see clearly. And then I think even if they are the one, if you want to call them that, if they're someone that you would want to marry, thrusting it into that position prematurely can almost mess it up or put strains on the relationship that shouldn't be there. For me, I had a very personal encounter with God of how I knew that you were the person I was going to marry, that you were my one. And so some people hear from God in that way of like specifics of like, yes, this is going to be it. Some people romanticize that idea and think, oh, there's a cute person. Hey, God, will you please tell me if that's the one? And I think in that way, it's like we're almost asking God to fulfill something in our time rather than when we're away, when we're in our quiet time with God. Again, before we even meet that person, like, God, show me the characteristics of the husband or the wife that I'm going to meet, because they are going to help me fulfill the call that you have on our lives, because they're going to help me be a better person. I think we need to, in our mindset and in society, shift marriage from being this thing that starts as a romance and then it's hard when you're in it, and then a lot of people just get divorced because it gets hard, but rather seeing it up front is it's always a partnership. It's always that iron sharpening iron, and see it from that lens so we can enter into it the right way and we can find the partner that is going to be our companion and our partner.
Yeah, that's so good. I would say, going back to what you were talking about, the getting the word from God, because I know that was something that was very important for us. Is I remember when I got the word, it was right after our first date, the next night. And that was something that I was able to stand on, because like I said, when we talked about in the beginning, we did have a frustrating engagement period. And I would think if I did not have that word to stand on from God, that conviction of actually taking it to God, because it is a very important matter in your life. So if you're not taking that to God, I think there's a little room for pause there. Then I think that's really important, because it was able to get us, because we went through the frustrating time. We were able to get through that because we knew God had called us together. And also, there is an important factor to this, and this was actually something that I had to do on top of the word from God, is that just because I heard from God, I needed to choose Christian. And there is a blessing, and the Bible shows us there's a blessing that comes with the choice, is that when we say, you know what, I'm going to dedicate, this is the person that I am choosing, there is a blessing that comes with that. And there's the ease, and there's the lack of anxiety, honestly, the frustrations that come around that. I remember I was dealing with a lot of those things and frustrations, anxiety of, is this the right move? And I remember I had someone tell me that, well, have you chose her? He's like, I get that you heard from God. I get that you guys are engaged, all that stuff. But have you actually chose that this is the person that you're going to dedicate your life for, lay down your life for? Because he said there's a lot of things that you're doing that you have not yet decided yet on that. And I said, yes, I choose her. And as I did that, that gave me the freedom to understand, this is the person that I am going to, regardless of what comes up against us in our marriage or relationship that I'm going to choose to do life with and choose to be in covenant with.
Yeah, and I love that you coupled those together too, because having the word from God and the surety that we are in line with his heart helps that choice follow. And then, because if we had just the word, we could almost, whenever things are going wrong, blame God and say, why did you select this person for me? Or if we only chose in our own strength, when times got tough, we could really question, was I in the right mindset? Did I choose correctly? But when we couple them together and we have that peace from God and our own involvement and commitment to it, it strengthens the marriage, because those are two things that we have to do every day. Like when I wake up and we have strong moments and we're just connecting and overcoming things. Like even yesterday we hung a shelf or something together, but it was like a moment of partnership. And just like going into that, I was like, yeah, even in the small things, like this is my partner, and I'm so gracious that God like led me to him, like gave us that peace, like led us so graciously into that season. But then when times are tough, we have to continually choose each other.
Yeah.
Like those are two things that doesn't just happen in the engagement season. They happen throughout marriage, almost every day. And it's great. And it strengthens.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Well, we're getting close to the end of the time. We're actually probably
That's
over.
Frustrating.
Yeah. And so I did want to do the talk about it for 2 minutes, but I think we've really, honestly, we've covered a lot. And that's just the thing, though, about dating, is because I feel like we've covered a lot, but at the same time, I feel like we have not covered enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because this is such a big topic. So we're going to continue to keep having conversations. Christian, is there anything that you just want, one last final thought before we go? That's really deep. That's good. You don't have to have anything.
Yeah, I would say whenever it comes to dating, there are so many different voices we can listen to. There are so many different people's stories that we compare ourselves to. But the most important facet, I think, is to really, I heard something one time that it was like the best advice is to not take any advice. Like to just make it personal, so you're not having all these methods and algorithms in your head of how it's supposed to work, but really just my breakthrough came whenever I took time away from what I wanted, what I'd heard, what I'd seen, and just asked God, what do I need to do to prepare for that, and what do you want it to look like? Yeah. And for me, I didn't do dating that well at all before I met Arden. And in my mind, that was either making me continue on the same path or hindering me from doing it right. And so I was just like, I need a fresh, like clean slate, took it back to God, like took time with him. And I don't think Arden and I would be married if I didn't do that. So that would be my biggest advice, no matter what season you're currently in. If you are engaged, married, dating, single as a Pringle, you can always take time to reassess, to either enter into the next season well or to better the season that you're in. So just take time with God, ask him what you can do and how you can flip your expectations, and just welcome in more of how he wants to lead.
Well, I'm glad you did that, because you did say in there that you didn't know if we'd be married if you didn't do that.
You wouldn't want to be married to me.
So I'm glad, because marriage has been so much fun with you. And so I'm glad we get to talk about all this, and hopefully this has helped. If you guys enjoyed the conversation, guys, please make sure that you are subscribed. We'd love to hear what topics you guys want us to cover. Also, if you guys have not looked into becoming a Sons and Daughters Ambassador, we would encourage you to do so. We have a ton of teaching and courses that we give out to you, and also an online community that we'd love to have you a part of. You can go to sonsanddaughters.tv to join. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Please make sure, as I said, share this podcast, subscribe, leave a comment. We love hearing from you guys. And until next time.